The old way of retirement is dead, RIP.
And that might be good news, and it might be bad news, depending on what you build for your retirement.
But don't worry, we have you covered because on today's episode, we're diving into the next generation of retirement and what it means for you. Let's get into it. We'll talk about retirement in just a minute, but first, Kayla, what's your favorite recipe?
Ooh, there's this amazing bolognese recipe that I love to pull out for dinner parties. The secret is it uses...
I'm gonna stop you right there. I'm not talking about cooking food. I'm talking about letting Granola, the AI notepad for people in back-to-back meetings, cook.
Oh, you mean Granola's recipe function, which uses pre-made prompts to supercharge your meetings and workflow? Yeah, I love those. My personal favorite recipe is List Outstanding Items, which pulls all open action items, commitments, and deferred questions from meetings notes into a scannable checklist.
Ooh, that is a great one. I use the Coach Me recipe for all of my one-on-one meetings with my boss to give me actionable feedback to keep improving my performance at work.
Want to make granola your sous chef and try its recipes for yourself? Head to granola.ai/brew to try granola for free. That's granola.ai/brew to try it today for free. So moving on to retirement, but before we get there, I want to tease out per my last policy. We have a segment at the end. We're going to talk about another policy that we believe all workplaces should enact.
Someone needs to make us president by now. We have some great policies.
We need a serious magic wand to turn these policies real. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about retirement. What does it look like right now, Kyle?
Well, I am obviously a bit of a retirement expert, being 33 years old and never have retired myself. So I'm glad you asked that question, Kayla.
Great.
Well, first I have to say, I never want to retire from this podcast.
Okay.
I want to keep podcasting with you until our last dying day.
That is tough. I don't wish that for us.
Kayla's like, nah, I'm exiting. When this podcast strikes it rich, I'm gone the next day.
Exactly.
So very excited to talk about retirement because I think the way I grew up thinking about retirement, which is, you're going to go work for a company and you work for one company for a long time and there's a thing called a pension and that takes care of you. And then you stop working and then you just sit around and watch TV all day and life is great. That doesn't actually exist anymore. And I think there's been probably two significant changes to retirement that force you to be a little more proactive about how you approach it. The first is this pension that I was talking about. Those don't really exist anymore for private sector employees. It used to be everyone had them. Now I think it's only 11% of private sector employees actually have some sort of pension. And the idea that you're going to work for one company your entire career is also gone. This hire to retire model is broken, and people are changing their companies a lot more, and they're taking a 401k kind of with them or have multiple 401ks. And so the structure of work and how you save has changed. The second is, I think we used to think of retirement as this very binary thing. You're either you're retired and working, and then all of a sudden you flip a switch and you're retired, and your life looks totally different at that point. That also isn't the case. It's a lot more porous now. We're seeing people who retire come back to the workforce, whether half of them cite financial necessity. So, oh shit, I didn't actually save enough, or this is more expensive than I thought. I need to come back and start working more. The other half are like, oh, I really enjoyed working, or the sense of community, or the sense of purpose. I don't have that anymore. Let me just go back to work. And so I think the way you think about retirement has to fundamentally change. And then the strategies you deploy to make sure you're comfortable at that stage in your life changes as well. So, wow, what a breakdown, Kayla. My God, crushed it.
Said that about yourself.
Yeah. That was
what a breakdown, Kyle.
Thank you.
That was so thorough. In fact, so thorough, I have nothing else to add.
I think the episode's over.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's retirement, folks. No, I mean, I think the reality is like, that's the idea that maybe we were told when we were younger and maybe we saw a little bit, but I feel like that hasn't been the reality in so long.
Okay.
Like, I think this generation, at least our parents' generation, kind of hasn't retired. And I think that this idea, maybe it was their parents that like 60 and one day you're out.
Yeah.
And then you move to Florida and you do golf all day or whatever the hell people were doing. But like, I haven't felt that. I haven't seen it anecdotally at all.
Yeah.
Like, even my grandpa, like my grandparents are still doing work. It just maybe looks a little different than showing up at a store from 9 to 5, every day or whatever. So I think it's been changing for a long time, but I think what's happening now is this generation is a little more actively talking about the changes. I think perhaps our generation and the generation above us expected that for themselves.
Yeah, and they kind of had like a shock when they got to the end and we're like,
Right.
oh, we don't have this.
Right. And I think also what has changed is this idea that if you are loyal to a company, they will take care of you at the end. The hire to retire model is reliant on what happens the day after you retire. That company owes you, right? Like you worked, you gave them 40 years of your life, and then they pay the pension, they pay your retirement,
Right.
or at least contribute to it.
Yeah.
And when that has started to go away, I think that generation above us is like, wait, what the heck? Like, I don't have the money to retire, or I haven't prepared myself emotionally to leave the workforce. This is my identity for 40 years. And they're just stretching it a few more extra years. They're, bouncing back, coming back to the workforce in a different capacity, maybe as a consultant. And so now we're seeing that change and we're like, wait a minute, retirement isn't everything that I was told back in the day. Like, I'm only 10 years into my career. If I have 30 years left, like, do I have 30 years left? Do I have 50 years left? Like,
and even the idea of like, should I put a time on that?
Right.
Like, oh, I work until I'm 60 and then I don't work. Like, is that even a smart mindset to have around retirement?
right. And I think there's this idea that it's breaking. And I think the generation below us, Gen Z, although technically I've learned recently, I guess I'm a cusper. I had no idea.
No, you're not a customer.
That's what I said.
You're millennial core.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Millennial
Whoever told
core
you
is
that,
kind of offensive, but whatever.
You're so deeply millennial it hurts. But me too, Kayla.
It's a great
yeah.
case. But anyways, the generation below us, so Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I think they have no expectations of what retirement's going to look like. They have no
They
expectations.
have no expectation like a safety net. They're like,
Right.
Social Security's probably gone too.
Well, it kind of probably is.
So I better start making TikToks. Like, here we go.
But that's what so I think it's an interesting, we're in this like transition period.
Yeah.
Where the generation before us is like, I wasn't expecting it to be like this. And now we're and below are like, okay, we know it's not going to be like this. What do we do instead?
Yeah.
And I think what we were talking about in the intro too is like, we have the opportunity to kind of build a new retirement. The goal, if the good news is maybe we make it more effective.
Yes.
And the bad news is maybe we don't retire.
Yeah. Maybe we work until we literally die.
I think we're setting up for that.
Yes. Okay. So I totally agree. I think the big theme here is that the risk of retirement shifted from company to you.
Yeah.
Before, the company had all the risk. They had to pay off pensions and they had to make sure that their company was solvent enough to do that. With the 401k and just with this general shift, risk is on you. The opportunity, which I think is really cool, like if you are listening to this podcast, you're early to mid-career, you still have a long runway. You can build something as a retirement that is custom fit for you and really works and I think brings you a lot of joy, and you can start thinking about that now. I actually think it's very important to start thinking about that now. Obviously, there's the savings element. Shout out to my guy Warren Buffett talking about compounding. The more you save now, the better you're going to be in the future.
Yeah.
So it is important to think about it and act now. But I also want to extend that not just from savings, but to other things as well. Like the more you start thinking about the skills you want to have, the experiences you want to have, that compounds as well. And you're going to find yourself in a better position when you are ready to quote unquote retire, if you want to retire at all. So kudos to you for listening right now. I want to now talk about some of these elements, Kayla, that I think are really interesting in this new generation of retirement. And so let's first talk about saving.
Great.
How are you saving, Kayla? Break it down for us. How are you thinking about the financial element of retirement?
Okay, so
and what currently do you have in your bank account?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So $34. No. The reality is that the generations before us, with their pensions, it was like you literally didn't have to think about it. You were covered. I have been at this company for 5 years. I have not thought about my 401k, my match, any of that, probably in 4.5.
Okay.
Because
you haven't thought about it as in you're not doing it?
No, as in you said it and you forget it.
Good.
Like when you started a new company, what I did at least was I figured out what I wanted my match or what I wanted to contribute based on what the match is that our company provides.
Yeah.
And then that is taken out of my paycheck, and I do not think about that regularly.
Yeah.
If I was every single 2-week paycheck thinking about retirement, like I think I would go crazy.
Totally.
You know, so I genuinely, I know for a fact because I have Copilot and it tells me my updated, that not an ad hashtag, my updated account numbers, just like if I'm perusing.
Right.
So I know how much I have in my 401k with Morning Brew.
Yeah.
But I'm not thinking about it constantly. So I set it and forget it. And ideally, I won't be thinking about it for a while.
Right.
But that's pretty much it for me right now.
Well, I think that, this is not financial advice legally. I have to say that, but it kind of is. But it's not legally.
No.
Please, if you have a 401k and your company offers to match, do the full match.
Yeah.
Just like, if you're not doing it right now, like pause the podcast, please come back, pause it and go set that up. It's literally free money that your company
and it adds up.
will give you, and it totally adds up. And again, it gets out of your paycheck. Then you start to build your life around that new number. And it's like not as drastic as you think.
No.
It's free money.
Yeah.
So please, at a minimum, do that, because I think that is the best way too. Set it and forget it, and there's going to be a nice chunk of change, fingers crossed, if it compounds, when you need it at the end of your life.
Can we just really quickly do a very quick math experiment right now?
Sure.
So let's say
I'm a little scared because
I'm doing this live. I genuinely have
bombed
not.
pre-calculus, so hopefully this is more of an Algebra 2 type question.
I think it might not even be that. But okay, but if you don't want to listen to math, just go forward 15 seconds. So let's say you have $100,000 salary for ease of use.
Yeah.
And your company's willing to match 3%.
Mm-hmm.
If you put $3,000 down, that is basically, what is it? What's 3,000 divided by 50?
Kayla.
I don't know, $60 a paycheck.
Sure.
It's $60 a paycheck that you're not seeing.
Yeah.
And that's $3,000 that your company is giving you on top of your, salary.
Right.
And based on compounding, in 7 years, it's supposed to double.
Yeah.
So that means in 7 years, that $3,000 is $6,000. You didn't do anything for that money. Like anything. It's just free. And the $3,000 that you put down is also $6,000. So you turned your $3,000, your $60 a paycheck. I really hope I'm doing that right. Your $60 a paycheck is now $6,000 without you doing anything to deal with any of that. And then in 7 years from that, it's $12,000. Like, it's just, again, like, that's not exactly perfect math, but like,
it is powerful.
It is powerful to think about that. Just please, for the love of God, please.
It's like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger right here.
Yeah, you know what? That's what they've been calling us. That's what the internet comments say.
The other way to think about it, maybe even more simply, is you will never find an easier way to automatically get 100% return on your money, to double it. You put in $100, if your company will match it, it's now $200. You made 100% return.
Yeah.
Automatically. Like, you're just never going to find that deal. So please take advantage of that. The other thing I want to ask you is let's step outside of finance. We talked about kind of the other things you might want to be thinking about when it comes to retirement. How are you thinking about those? I'm talking about maybe skills you want to have by the time you retire, hobbies you want to have so you don't end up alone and depressed and being like,
thanks, Kyle.
I need to go back to work.
Jeez Louise.
Like, how are you thinking about those other elements of retirement?
Yeah, how am I avoiding being alone and depressed? Let's think about it.
I mean, that's good advice. You don't want to end up there.
First of all, we didn't talk about your savings, so that's coming up next.
I can do it now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the same thing. 401k match.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
And then I try to tuck some money away in like an emergency fund, and then the rest would invest it in the market broadly. But I think I'm very basic. It's like, do the match, save enough to have an emergency fund. If something happens, you have enough runway to last, 6 months so you can get yourself back on your feet. And then the rest goes into the market and, just don't pull it out.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And we can talk about like 401k versus like regular investments and like the implications of you can't take that money out without a big penalty. But anyways, now let's talk about dying alone, as Kyle so kindly put it. So I view my identity as, again, there's a long life ahead of me, a long career ideally ahead of me.
Yeah.
Ideally both. How am I viewing my retirement identity? Like, I think one of the things we kind of touched on but didn't talk about enough is the identity side of retirement. There's this feeling where, especially when you've been working for 40, 50 years, that this is your life, this is your identity. People at that age, you've developed expertise, you've developed trust, you've built relationships. So much of your sense of self-worth
Totally
has come through your job.
Such an important point.
And then one day you're like the head of the company, and the next day you're like, what do I do today?
You're just like a dude.
Just like a guy, like, trotting along in the grocery store trying to find, like, I don't know,
the bananas.
prunes or something, whatever. Like, that's a really hard transition. And I really, really, really empathize with people who have a hard time giving up that power, that relationship, that identity. And I really, really, really don't want that to happen to me. And so a lot of the work that I've been doing over the past few years has been to continue to have a strong portion of my identity be tied to work, because it is like a lot of my time.
Yeah.
But also to do some, in the finance world, they call it portfolio diversification.
Oh, here we go.
So the most like ideal portfolio has 60 stocks in it.
This really is turning into a finance podcast.
Well, so that's like an old thing. I haven't thought about finance.
That's not financial advice.
No, it's not. But they did the math like a million years ago, and they figured out 60 stocks is like the best portfolio.
It's more resilient.
Right, because there's like, there's ups, there's downs in individual stocks, but overall your stocks.
It's hedging.
Yeah. It's not really hedging, but whatever. It is, which, fine. So I am not doing 60 things to diversify my identity, 60 buckets or whatever. But I am trying to build strong, like, revenue streams of identity flow, if that makes sense. Like I sound like a crook. What is it called? A croc or something. I sound crazy, but I sound like a podcast bro. That's what. Anyways, I like to feel like there's at any given point, there's like 3 or 4 areas that I can pull from to like fill my cup.
Yeah.
And so whether that's work is absolutely one of them, but it's like, maybe it's making bread, which I've been really into recently, or maybe it's like,
she makes some fire sourdough.
I really do. It's pretty good.
It's good.
Or it's like, hosting friends and family, or, reading, whatever it is. Like there should be at all times 3 or 4 things that I could do in a given day to like make myself feel like whole.
Totally.
And you have to do that, I guess, throughout your career. And we'll be right back after this. Okay, back to the show.
Yeah, there's some really sad statistics about retirement that play into this strategy that you're talking about, which is self-reported depression goes up 40% for the first 2 years of retirement.
Yeah.
Because people have so much of their identity tied into work, and when it has in the past been very binary, switch off, you don't work anymore, you've lost a big part of who you are. And so much of work is not just about identity, but it's also about purpose. People like waking up and knowing what they are supposed to do. Yeah. It's about community. Think of all of the friends and all of the communication. I talk to people at work like more than anyone else in my life because I'm here more than anywhere else. And so you lose all of that in one fell swoop, and that's really scary. So I think your advice is spot on, which is you need to build a resilient identity where if work went away, you wouldn't crumble and become depressed or lost. You want to have other things, whether it's you take pride in your family, you take pride in volunteering, you have a side hustle, you have a core group of friends that are outside of work. That is so important. And it's really important to start thinking about that now. Because when you're 85, you don't want to be like, I have no friends and it's time to go make some. Like, okay, you're moving to a retirement home in Florida. That's pretty much the only option.
But also, that is a very good way to make
that actually sounds quite nice.
That sounds pretty sick, actually.
Next podcast coming live from Florida. But I think it's really important to start thinking about that now. And that's news you can use. How are you building this resilient identity? Because when you get to the point of retirement, you're going to need it.
So, Kyle, how are you building a resilient identity?
I'm not at all, Kayla. I'm not
You're
at
all
all
in on work.
I am. This is, I think, the best argument for work-life balance. And I'm like I'm an anti-work-life balance kind of guy.
Sure.
Like I do feel like I give a lot to work and I derive a lot of my self-worth from that. However, like I have a family now and that matters so much to me. So that's like a really strong pillar that I can lean on and find a lot of joy from. And then, I start to think about it. Like, I have a core group of friends that aren't related to work that I've known since like third grade that I'm still really close with. That gives me a lot of purpose. The other thing I'm thinking about is I want to stay working at Morning Brew for a long time because I want to keep podcasting with you for forever, obviously. Yeah. But there will come a day where I'm not doing that. Like, what skill set do I need to have in order to at least do some like consulting so I can stay in the mix in media or what have you, that I think would be a really enjoyable, quasi-retirement. It's like kind of more picking and choosing the opportunities that you dive in and out of. And so that's like, okay, like I need to stay abreast of what's happening in the media industry. I need to be able to market myself. I need to be able to build a brand now so that I'm recognizable later. I need to understand like literally how to build the infrastructure of a website and all of that stuff. So that is stuff I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on now that I want to stay really relevant and fresh on so I can pivot to that if necessary down the road.
I think that makes sense. I also think it's important for us like to be like, we're not like, I'm not baking bread so that I am cool in retirement, so that I'm not like depressed in retirement. Like we have so much time. First of all, I will be cool in retirement. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But we have so much time before. It's not like, oh, I'm doing all these things now so that my retirement is like cool. It's like, I think there's stages in life. And like, I think you're in a stage right now where you're optimizing more for work than you are for like having another hobby and retirement.
Yeah.
And like things change. And so we are still pretty young in our careers. We're still pretty early in our careers. And so I think your approach is like, good.
Yeah.
It's a good one. And it's a smart one because you're now making the decisions today that are going to allow you to have more flexibility in the future, whether that's financial, identity, work related flexibility, So I think that makes a ton of sense. And I think when you're in our stage or younger and you're thinking about retirement, it's not like if you don't have 60 identity elements, then you're screwed for retirement in 45 years.
Yeah.
That's not the case. It's like there's stages.
Totally.
But keeping it in mind, I think, is always very important.
Yes.
And the thing that is important today is the financial element because of compounding, because of the things we've been talking about investing, it's not always going to go up, but it does often go up.
Yeah, over time.
And so that stuff you should think about now. And the identity stuff, I think, is something that you should keep in mind in the back of your head. And as you continue to evolve in your career, just keep that in mind.
Totally. I want to talk now about mini retirements.
Sure.
Or the multi-retirement approach to life, which is not work, retire, but work, retire, work, retire. Kind of a sick beat. Might have to turn that into a song.
Yep.
There is this emerging trend. We talked about it on a previous episode of these like kind of sabbaticals where instead of like grinding for years and then finally retire and lay in a field and everything is peaceful, it's like I'm going to kind of have sprints and then I'm going to take a break and do a little retirement thing, sabbatical, and then come back and, do a new passion. What are your thoughts on that? It is a very novel approach to thinking about retirement in chunks as opposed to one binary thing.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier today, which is I don't think since I've gotten a job that I have had more than 2 consecutive weeks off.
Literally, same.
Yeah. And that's been like, what, 12 years of work? And so the idea of a mini retirement
sounds pretty damn nice.
It sounds very nice, and it's also very scary because one of the things that we did learn is like, not only is it higher retire pension, but it's like breaks are really hard to come back from. And I don't think that's the case anymore necessarily, but I think it's this mindset that makes it very hard. And I think that is also extremely, extremely enticing about the mini retirement is like breaking that mindset, enjoying, the money you have when you're young, spending time doing stuff that energizes you, taking time off to like really think about what your passions are and what you want to do for the next stage of your life is very intriguing. Do I think I'll do it? Probably not.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I think you brought up a good point there at the end, which is, and we were talking about this before, like, what is it? Money, time, and energy.
Yeah.
You never have all three at once, essentially. And really understanding which of those two, hopefully, you have and how you can build your life around that. And so if you love, I don't know, biking and like your goal is like to bike the Swiss Alps or something one day.
That's crazy.
Look, I don't know.
You're going to be biking up a lot.
I don't know anything about biking. Shouldn't have picked that, but here we are. You're biking. Like, if you're like, I need to like retire before I do that, and then you retire when you're 70, I don't think you should be biking the Swiss Alps at that age.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're really good at biking.
Yeah, but you see my broader point. Like, that's something you probably need to do when you're younger. And, you know, it's going to sound very corny, but like, you do only get one chance on this earth to live those experiences. And so I think really deeply thinking about, what do I want to accomplish? And what are the experiences I want to have in this life? Which can I bucket for later, retirement, you know, traditional retirement, and which do I need to sprinkle in now to actually enjoy them? Because I'm never going to get the opportunity to do them when I'm 65 is a really, really smart thing. And yeah, you don't need to call it a sabbatical. Just take a vacation. Call it PTO. There's already a word for that. But I think thinking about that stuff deeply is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that is a good approach to the mini retirement. Is it doesn't have to be a 2-year break. It could be a 3-week vacation.
And go live it up and have those experiences. Yeah. Last thing I want to talk about.
The last
geographic arbitrage.
Sure.
Yeah, it's never the last thing. I should just stop saying that. Geographic arbitrage. Yep. Another element of retirement where most of us are around one location because we either have to go into an office, so we need to be in, let's say, New York City because we're doing this podcast, or we're raising a family and they go to school and we don't want to pull kids out of school, so you're kind of anchored for 18 years. You get to retirement, and hopefully, if you have kids, they're out in the world, they're flourishing, they're having a great life. You don't work anymore, or your work's a little more flexible, so you could choose anywhere you want to live, and you have this money saved. People sometimes just move to the lowest cost of living area and live out on a ranch somewhere. Sure. So there's this like interesting geographic arbitrage element you should be thinking about. So Kayla, question for you. Picture yourself. You're not working this job anymore.
Okay.
You got money in the bank.
Sure.
Life is good.
Life is good.
And you could go anywhere you want in retirement for this geographic arbitrage. Where are you moving, Kayla?
So I have 2 thoughts. I have 2 thoughts about this. The first thought is so we have actually pre-recorded this podcast, and where we are currently, Kyle and I, is on a beach in Brazil.
That's true.
That is where we will be when this goes live. So it is very top of mind for me to say I would love to be on a beach in Brazil.
Ooh, you're gonna do like an expat lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that would be really fun.
I could see that for you.
I really could see that for me.
And I come visit, that would be fun.
That would be really fun. But the reality is, I think I would like to do the opposite of geographic arbitrage. Okay. Which is I would like to live out my final years in this here New York City.
Kayla, I'm not kidding. That is my answer.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
That's so. We did not talk about this.
That's such a good answer.
I want to be drinking wine at 11 a.m. with my gals and then like walk around and like be a menace in Central Park.
Yes.
That is the best case scenario.
I couldn't agree more. One, before I give my rationale, because I love your answer, we want to hear where you would move in retirement.
Tell us.
So drop it in the comments. I need to hear everyone's take. So New York, I couldn't agree more. I think New York City is the single best place to retire.
I think so too.
You already have the money.
Yeah.
The issue with New York is it's damn expensive. Yeah. Well, hopefully if you've listened to us, Wizards of Retirement, you're set on that element. One, you don't need a car. Yeah. So, you know, my eyes are going already. the state is about to not even let me drive. Sure. So don't have to worry about that. Yep. Public transportation, perfect. You get everywhere you want. Two, you're old, you're cultured. You want to look at art. You want to go to a show. Yep. You want your favorite artist because you don't want to travel that much to come to you. Yep. They're all coming to New York City. So cultural amenities through the roof. Yep. And then, yes, it's so beautiful. There's so much to do. You're never going to get bored. The worst thing about living in New York when you're working is you're like, damn, there's all these things I want to do and I can't do them because I'm stuck inside for 10 hours a day. You finally can do them. Yeah. Like, it is perfect. I feel like early in your career, big city, great. Lots of opportunity, grow your income really fast, economic opportunity, meet your partner, cosmopolitan, very fun. Then you have a family, gets a little tight, you need more space. That's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm like, that's when you probably go out. But I think immediately you got to come back. When your family thing is done, you're retired, get back to the city. New York City should sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, it's great. And also when you're thinking about like the end of life stuff, like you have a ton of hospitals close by. There's a ton of programs for aging individuals, you know, like sometimes people are just dropping meals off to the elderly. I'll do that on a Saturday. Free, it's super easy.
They got free DoorDash.
You have DoorDash. Yeah. I mean, the options are literally endless. I'm super pro that.
God, you just got me so excited to get old.
That'll be super fun. Now the walk-ups, not as ideal.
Yeah, you're gonna need an elevator.
You're gonna have to find an elevator.
You're gonna need an elevator building.
But regardless, I think that's fun. Or expat life, middle of, you know, small town at a country, ideally where you speak the language.
Yeah, the one other thing I'll say, and then we'll get off New
Sure.
York, because this is becoming just gassing New York up.
Yeah.
I actually think it'll keep you fit in a way that's like not like it's like the lived fitness where you're just walking around a lot. You go up the steps of the subway. Like, I think that's good. I can see myself just rotting away in suburbia.
Yeah, I totally
like
see
just
that.
like sinking into it, becoming one with the couch.
Yeah.
That you would
Because you
avoid
don't
in New
have
York.
to get up and go about,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah, and I really, really, really want to be the grumpy old lady that keeps yelling at me in the subway, you know? And now I can pass that along.
Yes. Wow, that's a wow. We're really in New York
That's so
together.
funny.
That's great.
That's great.
Okay. I think we've covered every element of this new generation of retirement. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I don't have anything else. I'm sure we've missed stuff, but I am very, very curious what you think. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a new generation. Like, we can build what retirement looks like for us.
Yes.
I am curious what your thoughts are. Like, what do you think we missed? What do you think, you know, we should double down on?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're doing to prepare for retirement that you think everyone should be doing? Send us an email, permylastemail@morningbrew.com. Post in the Spotify comments. Send us DMs on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're everywhere. So
Or send us DMs on LinkedIn.
sure, also
Yeah.
LinkedIn is fine.
Okay, lovely. Let's wrap up retirement. Can't wait to see you in New York in about 50 years. But let's do our famous per my last policy.
Famous, world-renowned.
World famous.
Yeah.
We have one policy we think needs to be enacted in every corporation across America. And today's per my last policy is, I think we need to be monitoring the situation more. I think if you have a TV or a set of TVs in your workplace, they need to be on at all times. And they need to be on Bloomberg. They need to be on Morning Brew Daily. They need to be on something. I just want to feel like I'm covered. Even if I'm not even doing anything related to the Strait of Hormuz, I need to know that some analyst is thinking about the price of oil. I need those TVs active.
Yeah, here's the thing though, is that's great until you're in a workplace that has TVs on all the time. And next thing you know, you're zoning out when you're supposed to be locked in and you're watching the like most obscure daytime television that you've ever witnessed.
But, okay, even if it's not Bloomberg, I just think, then throw on like a Nat Geo documentary. You know,
Again, I would watch that.
you look up and there's like a lion prowling the savannah. You're like, oh, that's beautiful. I think that there needs to be more of that, Kayla.
I think there should be less of that. Per my last policy, no TVs.
Kayla's all about locking yourself in. Well, okay, now let us know where you stand on this policy then. Again, per my last email at morningbrew.com. Send us your policies you think should be enacted. We'd love to hear them. Kayla, should we roll the credits?
Let's do it.
Our producer is Michaela Heck.
Our technical director is Jacob Smith.
Brittany DeTaco is our sound engineer.
And our president is Devin Emery.
This show is a production of Morning Brew.
Thanks for listening, and we'll retire with you next week.
We'll see you in retirement.